Warning, this video contains rumors, speculation, strong opinions, and
Welcome back to Midnight Madness. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. I also first want to say I'm working on another live stream tomorrow. I think it's just going to be laid back and chill. Kermit the Log, a YouTuber here, has a show. He has a channel, and I think that's where I'm going to end up tomorrow night. I believe 10 Eastern Time. This is also going to be a little bit different, because I don't exactly have a hot take, and I'm willing to go either way on this. Actually, I don't think there's a good answer. It's going to be called The Joker Made Me Do It. I was violent because the Joker made me do it. Or, for an example, any violent media. So let's really examine that in this Midnight Madness episode and get all kinds of different opinions. Is censoring art the answer? Now for that, I definitely believe hell no. Art is important even when it makes you uncomfortable. Joaquin Phoenix, in his recent interviews, he said, I think that's why I was drawn to the role. It made me uncomfortable. It's worth examining. So it's an important medium. Can it inspire evil is what made him walk out of an interview. That's difficult to respond. It's not the fault of the artist what people perceive of it. You can't control perception in the intentions of the artist, and you can't censor art. And you know how people love to say, where do you put the goalpost? This is one example where it might actually work. Where do you stop? Then you go back, and you see this censoring the past. Erasing art. And that's not doing anyone favors. That's like going to an Equilibrium world. Remember Equilibrium? That was an important movie. You're a sense offender. You're a sense offender, so we gotta stop it. That's not the answer. Many different opinions on this, and that's why I want to still make the video. I actually delayed making it because I didn't have a firm stance on it. I know I'm against censorship, and art is important. In my personal opinion, freedom of the press is important too. But if you're talking about what causes violence, people are going to do stuff no matter what. My main issue right now is the pointing. You know how I talk about pointing? The media is pointing to it before anything even happens. They're setting the stage for this shit to happen. And who's going to be the one to exploit it the most? So, I think we all have a responsibility together as a society. I don't think you should censor stuff, but you also shouldn't point and set the stage. And I think that's exactly what news media has done. Honestly, I used to watch a lot of news in the past, and I've consciously tried to stop. Because that's the last foothold that cable companies have on consumers with their cable packages is sports and news. And you want to talk about the most disgusting thing? It's not a character study of a fictional character like the Joker, which is a masterpiece of... I haven't seen it yet. It's my most anticipated movie this year. Obviously, look at what I'm wearing. But anyone wants... I don't like to put the blame, but if anyone's actually going to take the blame, I do not want to get into gun laws and all this other stuff, video games, music, movies, entertainment. There is violent media, but it also has ratings. So I think they're doing their part as the disclaimer there. You have to be able to handle it. Of course, people are going to watch what they're going to watch, and it's going to affect them differently. But if you want to talk about the biggest problem in this violence in the world right now, is that the most money that companies make, cable network television, news channels, The most money they make is when a tragedy happens. Now, there is a way to report on the news without showing the face of the killer or the name. There's a responsible way. Freedom of the press, yes. There's also responsibility. I love the saying, Stan Lee, with great power comes great responsibility. That goes across the board. You can't just be black and white, and there's no gray. I think society has a responsibility to handle things a certain way, especially when there's a tragedy. And I think a real dumpster fire is how news media handles all these tragedies. Focus on the victims, that's not going to bring in your ad revenue and those clicks. Show the picture of the serial killer, it inspires 3 more. So if you're going to talk about putting the blame on anyone, I don't think you should 100% blame anyone, but there's a responsibility with the freedom of the press, and they're doing a bad job. I think. I really want to know what you think about this. But to put a blame, they're setting the stage for Joker for something to happen. I sincerely hope nothing does happen. But who's going to profit from it as soon as it does? Who's going to cover it as soon as it does? Who's going to get a week's worth of ad revenue where their ad revenue increases 10 times? That's the problem. You're making something there before it happens. And that's disgusting. And there's also an argument to be had about violence in movies. I'm actually a big fan of Snyder. I think he gets crapped on a lot. I think he does a lot of good work. And one of the quotes from him in the past, I'm not going to get the quote exactly, is violence in movies and TV shows is dangerous when it's not realistic. When bullets just bounce off, people just flop over with no blood, no broken bones. That's what's more dangerous, because that's not realistic. So there's an argument there too. So basically, I'm still going to proceed with this episode of Midnight Madness because there's so many discussions to be had. It's a very interesting topic, and I don't think it's cut and dry. I don't think it's black and white. But to constantly go after an artist for creating art that examines a person's mind, it is an important thing, even if it is a fictional character. Now also, there's real serial killers that kind of get glamorized with TV shows, movies. Can you ignore it? Should they not make them too? That's a hard question to answer. You shouldn't censor it, and examining people is also very important. I think if you're trying to find for an excuse for this type of behavior, that's what's wrong. There's no excuse for it. And honestly, my personal viewpoint is the biggest thing that incites violence is being acknowledged for it. If you want to talk about cancel culture, I don't believe in cancel culture. But if there is one way I would go for it, is for these serial killers and these people that are making life hell for people just trying to live their lives. I think you should cancel the hell out of them. Cancel the hell out of them. Don't say their name again. They don't get any rights. And don't show their picture on TV. Focus on the victims. But you're not going to do that because you get 10 times less ad revenue when you don't show a serial killer's face. When there's people suffering in the world. That's my personal opinion. I believe in boycotts. I turn off the news when they show a serial killer, when there's a tragedy happening, and they talk about him, and not him or her or whatever, and talk about the killer and not the victims. That's my viewpoint. I'd love to hear yours. It's an interesting topic, but saying the Joker made me do it, that's not cool either. They're just trying to produce a film, an examination, and it could be helpful, actually. It's not the responsibility of the artist for what people do with it. You're going to find hate no matter where you go. Just look here on YouTube. Not making one thing, there's something else. That's not the answer. pointing to creating a stage for a disaster, I think in this scenario, news media is more responsible if something happens than the Joker movie. Because they're just pointing and saying, look what this could happen. They're not saying they'd want the tragedy to happen, but you know who's going to profit from it if it does. Those are my random thoughts on this. I almost didn't film this episode because I wasn't sure which way to go with it. Because it's a complex issue. But that's why I want to talk to you in the comments. And don't forget to check out, I hope this live stream comes together, Kermit the Log, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Kermit the Log's channel. I think that Snowdub's going to be there. I'm not sure if there's going to be another guest. I'm thinking it's going to be more like a casual stream, which after last week, I'll go for that. So I'll see you in the next episode! And I am looking forward to the Joker. Definitely. So I'll see you next episode.